When I was in college, my academic advisor told me, "You're not the kind of person who takes up space. You're the kind of person who holds it open for someone else." She said it like a compliment, like I should be proud of being so damn useful. I'm 42 now, a tenured associate professor at a top 30 university in upstate New York. I teach media studies, run a respected research lab, and co-authored 2 books no one outside the academic circuit will ever read. I'm not famous, but my students like me. My peers respect me. When they say my name in meetings, they nod. Then they move on. Because in every department, every university, there's always one person who shines harder than they work. Ours is Dr. Chase Hawthorne. Same age, same field. We started our academic careers just a year apart. But Chase took up space. Charismatic, TEDx background, always dressed like a conference keynote. He was the kind of person who cited himself in casual conversation and made you feel like you just missed something brilliant. Departments loved him. Deans promoted him. Alumni opened their wallets when he spoke. And for 10 years, he got everything I didn't. The biggest grants, the flagship courses, the media invitations. Twice, I wrote the first draft of white papers that later ran under his name, not because he asked me to, but because I didn't say no. That was my mistake. Not the writing, the silence. But that changed last year, when I submitted my name for the open department chair position, and he did too. In academia, the battle doesn't start with confrontation. It starts with email CCs. The department chair position had been quietly open for months. Our current chair, Dr. Ellen Medina, was stepping down at the end of the academic year, retiring to focus on her writing and spend more time with her granddaughter. Everyone knew Chase was going to apply. Everyone assumed he'd get it. So when I threw my name in the ring, it caused a stir. Not outrage, not drama, just a few raised eyebrows. A few, "Oh, that's interesting," comments, said with the exact tone people use when watching a car attempt to parallel park between 2 SUVs. Then the real moves began. You see, the department vote isn't the final say. There's a selection committee, 3 faculty members, 1 administrator, and 1 external rep. Then there are letters, recommendation letters, the formal kind, the performative kind. Chase had dozens within a week. One from a Harvard alum who sat on an NEH panel. One from a former provost turned think tank director. One, I kid you not, from a documentary filmmaker who called him a synthesizer of thought and action for the 21st century. I had 3, all thoughtful, all from people I'd worked with for years, none from anyone with senior fellow in their title. So I doubled down on what I had. Students. I asked 10 of them, former and current, to write support statements for my application. Short, specific, grounded in actual work. I didn't promise them anything, just told them the truth, that I wanted to shape the department with the same integrity I used to run my classroom. They all said yes. A week later, 5 of them rescinded, citing concerns and pressure from above. When I asked what changed, they went silent. That was when I knew Chase wasn't just playing to win, he was playing to erase me. I'd like to say I was shocked, but I wasn't. Chase had always mastered the untraceable pressure, that special brand of friendly suggestion that made you feel like he was doing you a favor while steering your choices. He never said, "Don't support Jacob." He didn't have to. Instead, he'd call in favors with students he mentored, ask if they were sure they wanted to pick sides, suggest they wait, think, observe the process before committing. All said with a kind smile and a tilt of the head like a therapist handing you a lollipop after bad news. But what he didn't know was that one of the students he contacted told me everything. Her name was Sarah, a grad student I'd helped get through her dissertation crisis the year before. Brilliant, underrated. The kind of student Chase barely noticed until she showed up with enough credentials to be useful in his grant applications. She walked into my office one Friday afternoon, shut the door behind her, and said, "I don't know what he's doing exactly, but he's making calls." "About what?" "About you. and how the department needs visibility, how you're respected but not really forward-facing. That was Chase's way of saying I was safe but not strategic. He said if we supported you and things got political, we might regret it. He didn't say anything directly, but he didn't have to. She looked me in the eye, genuinely torn. I want to write the letter, Dr. Elwyn, but I'm scared. And that right there, that was the line Chase had always known how to dance around, not breaking rules, just bending integrity until it resembled something reasonable. So I told her the only thing I could. Don't write it. She blinked. What? Not if it puts you in a position like this. I won't have anyone bullied into backing me. That's not what I'm building here. Her shoulders dropped, and she nodded. But before she left, she asked, "So, what are you building?" I didn't have an answer then, but I knew I needed one, because if Chase was going to play politics behind closed doors, I was going to open a window. Academia, like most institutions, runs on two engines. The first is power. Who has it, who wants it, and who pretends they don't. The second is labor, the people who do the real work while someone else gives the keynote. That second group, the ones no one claps for, I know them by name. Because for 10 years, they were the ones who kept my courses running on time, my labs supplied, my students supported, the quiet engine room, adjuncts, lab techs, admin staff, grad assistants, people Chase barely acknowledged unless they were forwarding him attachments or arranging his travel reimbursements. So while he was busy whining and dining the selection committee, I started making visits, one by one, not as strategy, but as something long overdue. I spoke to Carol in Student Services about the mental health resources our grad students were never actually told how to use. I met with Donovan, our only black adjunct in the department, about the pay inequity no one had ever publicly addressed. I sat with Lou, the custodial lead, in the break room for 40 minutes because no one ever asked him what faculty policies made his job harder. And I listened. No promises, no performances, just real conversations. By the time the formal interviews for department chair began, my application packet didn't look like Chase's. No color photos or flashy testimonial quotes, just a clean dossier and a quiet letter of intent. I don't want to change this department with one big speech. I want to change it by finally listening to the people who've been working beneath the noise. I figured that might earn me a footnote. I didn't expect what happened next. The formal interviews were held over 2 days. Each candidate got a block. One presentation, one Q&A with the department, one closed-door session with the committee. The whole process was structured to feel collegial, but anyone who's ever sat through one knows the difference between a conversation and a coronation. Chase went first. He came in dressed for a TED Talk. Crisp charcoal blazer, open collar, no notes, just charm. He opened with a joke about leadership in an age of inbox fatigue that got a chuckle from the back row. Then he launched into a 30-minute presentation filled with sleek buzzwords: visibility, impact, digital futures, scalable initiatives. It was impressive, in the way a fireworks show is impressive. Flashy, well-timed, and quickly forgotten once the smoke clears. When it was my turn, I brought a binder. Not a metaphorical one, an actual binder. Inside, 10 pages of staff survey results I'd gathered from non-faculty employees. Anonymous, honest, collected over the last 8 weeks. I read a quote from page 3. "I've worked in this department for 14 years and can count on one hand the number of professors who know my name." Then I said, I want to change that. Not by giving more speeches, but by changing who we think is worth listening to. That room was silent, but not disengaged. They weren't checking their watches, they were leaning forward. I spoke for 25 minutes. I didn't perform, I didn't quote from my books. I just laid out what I knew, what was broken, who it was breaking, and how we could fix it with structure, not slogans. In the Q&A, no one asked about social media reach, no one asked about fundraising strategies. They asked about people, about workload equity, course scheduling, grad mentorship, adjunct benefits, things Chase had never even mentioned. When I walked out, I didn't feel victorious. I felt heard, and maybe for the first time in my career, that was more powerful. The committee was supposed to meet the following Monday. Just 5 people, 1 vote each. 3 internal faculty, 1 administrator, and 1 external rep, a former alum who now ran a grant-writing consultancy. A balanced panel, at least on paper. But balance in academia is a myth. I knew Chase had 1 vote, locked from the start. Professor Wells, an old-school theory guy who'd been co-authoring with him for years. I assumed the administrator leaned his way too. Chase had invited her to guest lectures and once name-dropped her at a donor dinner. He understood how to plant seeds. That meant I needed at least 3 votes to tie, 4 to win outright. I didn't lobby. I didn't schmooze. But I did get a call that Sunday evening from Dr. Priya Naidu, one of the internal faculty on the committee. She said, "I wanted you to hear it from someone on the inside. There's going to be an attempt to delay the decision." I asked, "On what grounds?" "That more time is needed to weigh long-term strategic positioning," which is code for Chase didn't win the vote, and someone wants to give him room to change minds. I sat in silence for a moment. Then she added, "They weren't expecting you to get the external vote, but you did." She said your interview was the first one that didn't sound like a rebrand pitch. So it was 3-2, in my favor. Barely. That was when I decided I needed to make one final move. Not to win the vote, but to end the delay. Because in places like this, indecision isn't neutral, it's strategy, and I wasn't going to let my win be stalled into irrelevance. The next morning, I sent an open email to the full committee and all voting faculty. In the interest of transparency and with full confidence in the committee's process, I am formally requesting that the department chair vote proceed without deferral. I attached my application materials again. No comments, no attachments, no new pitch, just conviction. The kind that doesn't need volume, just clarity. The email didn't get a reply, not for hours. Then at 3:42 p.m., the department coordinator, not the chair, not a committee member, just the quiet woman who managed scheduling and coffee budgets, sent a message to the faculty listserv. Subject, Chair Appointment Announcement. Body, Dear colleagues, we are pleased to announce that Dr. Jacob Elwin has been selected as the next chair of the Department of Media and Cultural Studies effective July 1st. We thank all applicants for their thoughtful contributions to this process. Selection Committee money for face. No fanfare, no press release, no congratulatory quote from the dean. But it didn't matter. I sat at my desk and read it twice, not because I didn't believe it, but because I did. Across the hallway, Chase's office door remained shut for the rest of the afternoon. No knock on my door, no cold handshake, no performative civility. That was fine, because this wasn't his moment to ruin. I walked through the department before I left for the day. The hallways were quiet, but not empty. I passed Lou, the custodian. He nodded once, real slow. Carol in Student Services gave me a thumbs up and mouthed, "About time." At the elevator, I saw Sarah, the grad student who had backed down weeks ago. She held the door for me but didn't say anything until it closed. "You didn't win because you played it safe," she said. "You won because you stopped playing his game." I smiled. I just played the long one. Same thing. The office didn't change. Same door, same windows, same aging conference table with the half-sticky edge no one ever bothered to fix. But the nameplate on the door was new. Dr. Jacob Elwin, Department Chair, no initials. No degrees listed, just the name. I kept it that way on purpose. The first week I made no grand speeches, no faculty-wide emails about new eras or vision resets, no vision boards, no buzzwords. Instead, I changed 3 things. I brought Lou and Carol into the monthly admin meeting, gave them seats at the table, actual chairs, not plastic stackables. I restructured the course rotation to guarantee every adjunct 2 consecutive semesters of teaching, plus a minimum stipend for course prep. No more hanging them out to dry every spring. I created a bi-weekly lunch hour, open-door policy, any student, any level, no appointment required, just come talk. That was it. No slogans, just systems. Chase stayed in the department but moved offices, deeper into the East Wing, out of sight of the entrance. He took on more external-facing work, donor relations, conference panels, legacy projects. He smiled in the hallway, but it didn't carry like it used to. The room had shifted, because the story had changed, and that story wasn't about winning anymore. It was about staying, about being the one who didn't burn out, didn't sell out, didn't stand down, even after years of being treated like background. Second place for 10 years, but when it counted, first with purpose.